Hey guys, the Chief Ash here again to do another review for our OctoberQuest 31 Days, 31 Reviews. Today is quite the throwback. I will be talking very briefly on, hopefully, on The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is a silent film that came out in 1920. It's the basis of a lot of atmospheric horror movies. It was a lot of more artsy films nowadays will use Germanic expressionism, and this is kind of your quintessential look at that. Your almost epitome, if you will, of what Germanic expressionism is about. It's very stylized style. It's a very stylized way to make a movie it's very influenced by oppression of government and things like that. It's kind of got its roots in World War One, and then Adolf Hitler tried to destroy a lot of it in his rise in World War Two. So this is one of the gems that made it out, and it is quite an amazing film. It's something that they'll go over in every single film class. I've seen theater courses go over it. I've seen fine arts courses go over it. It's a massive movie, and people often forget about it, but for the people really deep into the arts, you'll find them referencing it a lot. Rob Zombie actually uses the similar shots and scene setups for one of his music videos. "Living Dead Girl" is kind of based around the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is very, very very interesting to see, especially seeing the movie. The movie, which is another thing about the movie, is that it has a plot that hasn't really been recycled a whole bunch, because you see a lot of horror movies nowadays, they recycle the plot over and over and over and over. And the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari really hasn't been overdone recently. It may have been in the past, and I never saw it, but it is from the 1920s, and they weren't really, they had all the subject matter in the world to put on film at the time, so they didn't really have the need to do this needless cookie cutter thing that we've got nowadays. So there's that. But the story is about this man who can hypnotize people, essentially, Dr. Caligari, and he's got a somnambulist, which is a sleepwalker, named Caesar, or Cesare, or I've heard a lot of different ways to say it. And he essentially keeps him in a cupboard, like almost a coffin, and he kind of totes him around as a sideshow kind of thing, and he's just showing off that it's this, creepy sleepwalking guy that he controls, which nowadays isn't that big a deal, but back then, that could be something neat, especially if enough presentation is put onto it. But people start randomly dying through this little town, and the story follows like this trio of friends that see the somnambulist or whatever, and the somnambulist, when he comes out and the doctor's controlling whatever, he tells dude he's gonna die, and then he does the next day, and essentially the plot unfolds from there. It's a rather short movie. I think it's an hour and a half. Might be only be an hour actually, but it has very creepy violin music throughout the whole thing, and it's a very light and like saturate shots, and the set is Germanic expressionism, so it's very pointed and it's very artsy. It's very interesting to look at. It's a lot of people that have trouble watching these old silent films. Most of the people who have shown this movie don't really seem to have that trouble. It's kind of quick paced, and it's very interesting, and the atmosphere keeps you going. It's kind of where my favorite thing in a lot of scary movies is not the jump scare, but the just looking at it and you're creeped out, and it's very solid in that. The atmosphere is crazy, and that's, like I said, this is kind of where the basis of all your atmospheric horror comes from, is the 1920s horror movies, Metropolis and this, and Metropolis isn't horror, blah blah blah, it's got extra, but anyway, your Phantom of the Opera, all that stuff in that area. That's where you get your atmospheric horror from, and it's very, very uneasy, and just hearing the music and stuff like that. You don't really need the words, and the script isn't super super complicated, so it's really easy to keep up with, and it does the cutaway, the classic cutaway read what they're saying line, so it works in that regard pretty well. Admittedly, me and Subpar Lobster put on a stage production of this show when I was in undergrad, my sophomore year. So it was fun. Wrote out a little script and everything, and I think it was pretty successful. It's fun. But yeah, no, it is definitely something you need to check out. It's an original. It's the foundation of horror and just film in general, as it is now, and it's one of your very first, one of your best examples of artistic expression in an early film. So it's something you need to see. There's shadow play, which is one of my favorite things. You can see Dr. Caligari. He'll be like doing these grand gestures, trying to get people to come see his tent, and you look at a shadow, and it looks it looks creepy compared to his almost welcoming thing. And I use that a lot in the stage production that I put on. So it's definitely something you need to check out because of that sort of thing, and there's a lot of originality because there's nothing before it. It's the beginning of the rise of film. It's the beginning of movie theaters being around places. This is one of the first movies you would have seen here from somewhere, from across the seas. So this is definitely something you need to check out if you are a film buff. If you have any interest in film and that section of art culture, this is a movie that you must watch. You must know about. This is the conversation starter for a lot of movies. It's definitely something. I will say there was a remake of it in I think 2006, which was not. It was still black and white, but it wasn't silent and it wasn't as effective. I mean, you lose a lot of you lose a lot of that silent effect. The movie really it's so much more effective silent. And then there was the weirdest sequel I've ever seen in my life. It's just called Caligari. Look up the Cabinet Dr. Caligari. Just Caligari. Maybe I'll do a review on just Caligari. It's weird. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really pertain to the original, but there's a sequel. It's something. But yeah, check out the original 1920, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Yeah, this has been the Chief Ash, and keep watching.